Bruce Lee was sort of the new kid in town, the young guy in his 20s, and he was basically doing a lot of trash talking of the established martial arts community there. Hey guys, my name is Joe, and welcome to Fighting Words, the martial arts library. This is a segment I call Media Fight Monday. So on the first and third Monday of every month, I take a fight scene from movies, television, animation, and so on, and I break it down and I grade it based on realism and storytelling value. Today we're looking at a fight from the movie Dragon, the Bruce Lee story that came out in 1993. We're looking at Jason Scott Lee playing Bruce Lee, and he's facing off against John Chung, who's playing Johnny Sun. Now, the interesting thing about Mr. Jason Scott Lee, was that he didn't actually have a martial arts background before they started filming. He was an athlete, he was a dancer, I think he'd done some gymnastics, and he trained with Jerry Poteet, who was one of Bruce Lee's early students. Mr. Chung, from what I've been able to find, first of all, he's been in martial arts movies since the 70s. He was in like The Executioners of Shaolin, worked on stunts for Enter the Dragon. His martial arts background appears to primarily have been Nanquan or Southern Kung Fu. There is likely to have been influence from other Chinese martial arts in there as well. From what I can tell, he was also the choreographer on this piece. As far as the setup to the fight scene goes, I'm actually going to tell you what the movie did and then what happened in real life, because this movie takes a lot of liberties with what actually happened in reality. I will have chapter markers down at the bottom, so if you just want to skip ahead to the fight, go ahead and do that now. But if you're a history nerd, this is going to be a little interesting. So, in the movie, the elders in the Chinese martial arts community in the United States were upset at Bruce Lee for teaching non-Chinese. Now, this is what Linda Lee actually wrote in her biography of Bruce Lee. Independent researchers have pointed out that there were other members of the Chinese martial arts community who were teaching Westerners. It doesn't appear that that was really a deal breaker. However, Bruce Lee was sort of the new kid in town, the young guy in his 20s, and he was basically doing a lot of trash talking of the established martial arts community there. And they think that that's why the challenge happened. In the movie, his first challenge match with Johnny Sun occurs in kind of an expansive, cavernous, hall of some sort with the elders watching on. And in real life, there was a fellow by the name of Wong Jack Man. He was selected as the representative of the Chinese martial arts community. He and a few others actually showed up at Bruce Lee's school, which at that time doesn't appear to have been very large. In the movie, at the end of the fight, Bruce Lee makes him quit, and then as he turns his back, Johnny Sun kicks him in the back and causes severe spinal trauma. In real life, though the details of the fight are somewhat disputed, Bruce Lee's side has their story, Wong Jack Man and his supporters had their story. The fight was over and everyone walked away from it. Bruce Lee injured his back while lifting weights. He was doing an exercise called Good Mornings, where you basically stick a barbell on your shoulder and then bend forward at the waist. And that's not great for the back. It's okay if you use the proper amount of weights and warming up and forms and all that. Doesn't sound like that's what happened. So that's how Bruce Lee injured his back. In the movie, while he was recovering from his back injury, he wrote the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. In real life, that didn't happen. The Tao of Jeet Kune Do was published after Bruce Lee's death. It was taken from a collection of his notes. There was no apparent manifesto that was meant to go out. They just sort of put together some stuff that sounded really good and sort of halfway organized it. If you actually look at the book, it's usually just, sections of 2 or 3 lines of thought and a few illustrations that Bruce Lee did. A lot of it, the majority of it, was actually him paraphrasing or sketching images from other books. In the movie, because of the popularity of that, Bruce Lee was a guest at Ed Parker's Long Beach Karate Championships, where he is challenged to a rematch by Johnny Sun. Here's a quick fun fact. The gentleman in the middle is Ed Parker Jr., the son of Ed Parker. In real life, again, the book wasn't published. Bruce Lee did have connections in the California martial arts community and in the Hollywood martial arts community. He knew Ed Parker. Some of his students had also trained under Ed Parker. I know Dan Inosanto was one of them, and there was at least one other gentleman, Daniel Lee maybe. But at that event, Bruce Lee did some demos. He did spar with some students. They were heavily geared up. They were wearing headgear with face masks. They were wearing chest protectors, shin guards, gloves. And it took place in an open mat instead of a ring. To the best of my knowledge, there was never a ring at the Long Beach Karate Championships. That's some of the background of the story. Johnny Sun got beat by Bruce Lee but broke his back, and now is saying that he beat him before and he'll beat him again. And Bruce Lee is meant to answer that challenge and to beat him in 60 seconds or less. Again, this fight never happened. Okay, we see Johnny Sun taking a low stance. That would be contingent with some of the southern styles of Kung Fu. He's using this open hand position and going for palm strikes. Bruce Lee is leading with his right side. That was something Bruce Lee was pretty famous for, with a right lead, where he would focus a lot on straight punches from that side. Get a kick that's blocked, jump kick that's voided, some feints, some straight punches. Kick that's blocked. Okay. So Lee extended his arm to block the hand strike, and Sun followed through with a kick to the back, which led to another kick to the back. And again, this is sort of a callback to their first fight where he hospitalized Bruce Lee with kicks to the back. Again, in the movie, not in real life. And we're getting a close-up here. I've got the sound cut off. You hear, if you had the sound on, sort of Bruce Lee's pulse increasing, but there's also this weird, like, squishy sound that I think is meant to represent, like, a pot getting ready to boil over. Frankly, I thought it was a poor choice, but here we go. So Bruce Lee screams in rage and then hits him with a bunch of straights and a kick to the head. So now he's angry, I guess. Johnny Sun is bleeding. Stops a kick with a kick of his own. That's very difficult, by the way. It looked like he was going to throw an outside crescent kick, and it got stopped with a thrust kick. Again, not very easy to literally kick somebody else's kick out of the air. Again, we get more bleeding, and he stumbled. Comes in with a low sweep kick. Lee jumps over it. I don't know why they keep going back to like, oh no, I'm bleeding from my mouth. It's like maybe a tiger claw attack. Looked like he blocked and punched. Kick to the inside of the leg. We get a jump kick. Jumping side kick to the head. That's the end of the fight. Okay, as far as realism goes, I think generally things were kept mostly realistic. It wasn't as gritty as a real fight would be. And honestly, some of that close-up action sort of made it difficult to see what was being thrown. For the most part, I would say that it was fairly grounded. Is it possible to jump over somebody's low kick? Yes, it's very difficult. I'm not going to say that it can't happen, but I think in order for a fight to look like this, someone would have to fight the perfect fight, which is very difficult. Not impossible, but I do think that that sort of draws back the realism a bit. But again, every technique that they used was something that you could potentially see in a fight. I think there's something of a lack of damage that one would expect to see in a bare knuckle fight, whether that's damage to their knuckles or damage to their face. We got Johnny's son who's bleeding from the mouth, which isn't even the most likely place to bleed. You know, you're most likely to get, cuts to the facial area. The nose can easily be broken. If you're seeing blood from the mouth, there's a fair chance that some teeth will be knocked out, or maybe the guy bit his tongue. I guess I'm going to give this a B minus. Again, pretty solid realism. If a C is average, I consider it a little bit above average because they are sticking to things that you would see in a fight. As far as storytelling goes, it's a rather simple story. I do like the callback of Johnny's son attacking Bruce Lee's spine. That works for long-term storytelling. When they started off, they seemed kind of even. You could argue that Sun was even getting the best of it because of those shots to the back. And then Bruce Lee basically, the pro wrestling term is he hulked up, sort of named after Hulk Hogan, where he just like, enough is enough, and now I'm angry, and you can't hurt me anymore. And he just basically took over the fight from that point. Again, that's a very simple story, but I also think it tells a very understandable one. Everybody wants to believe they'll be a better fighter when they get angry. Most people are wrong. But it is an understandable sentiment, and I think it works for this. B plus for storytelling. Anyway, thank you for following along. That's all I have for this video. If you guys would like to help support the channel, or if there is a fight that you want to see, you can sponsor that by donating to my Ko-fi account. So I'm going to put a link to that in the description. Once again, thanks for following along, and I'll see you around.